Hello, I'm Kim and welcome back to my studio. Today we're going to paint a dreamy city sunset together. As always, I'll walk you through the process step by step and give you all the details you need along the way. Let's get started. To start, I'm going to paint the background. I have here a cool blue color, then I'm going to add a cool purple, and at the very bottom, a hot pink. Together, these colors are going to make a vibrant background for our city sunset. Now that I have all my paint on my canvas, I'm going to use a large flat brush and take my time to slowly blend all of these three colors together. So I'm going to start off with the cool blue at the top right and then blend into the purple. And then I'm going to slowly make my way through the purple and into the pink. So you can take this really slow and go through as many times as you need to make sure the colors blend seamlessly. You can also take a short break if your brush is a little bit dirty, rinse it off, and then use your damp brush to go back over the whole gradient to make sure everything is very smoothly blended. So I made a bit of a mess there, but I'm happy with the way it turned out. So I'm going to move on to painting the moon and stars. So I've added some white to my palette, and I'm going to get a small pointed brush here, and I'm going to go in and paint a crescent moon shape. So this is a bit tricky to get just right. It's helpful to look at a reference if you need to, but just take it slow and build it up slowly. To some larger stars. A good tip here is to make sure your brush is straight up and down, so you're holding the brush completely vertically and not at all on an angle. If you hold it on an angle, it's going to add a larger shape that will be in more of a teardrop instead of a circle. So that's one tip to make sure your stars turn out exactly the way you want them. Once I'm finished with that, I'm also going to get that large flat brush again and dip it into water. And then I'm going to dip it into my white paint, and I'm going to flick it onto the canvas to add some smaller stars as well. Okay, so let's move on to the city below. I'm going to get my black here and add it to my palette. And then I'm going to get that same small pointed brush I used to paint the moon. I'm going to dip it into the black, and I'm going to slowly build up my telephone pole here. So just take it slow because the black is such a dark color over that light background, and I'm just going to make sure I have a nice shape for the pole and then slowly build it out. Another good tip here is, as you're painting the smaller details of the telephone pole, is the same as I mentioned earlier with the stars. So keep your brush more vertical, so straight up and down, so that your painting strokes are a lot smaller and thinner and more delicate than if you had it on an angle. So now we're moving on to some foliage. So you'll notice, if you have a keen eye, that I'm doing exactly what I said not to earlier. So I'm holding that same small pointed brush, but this time on an angle. That's because I do want this time for there to be thicker strokes, and so I'm holding on angle so I get that teardrop shape so I can build up my foliage. Now that I have the edges of the trees, I'm going to stop here. I don't want to fill in everything with this small brush. I'm going to switch to a larger brush and it'll go much quicker. But I do want to add a few little small birds here on the telephone wire. If you have difficulty with this part, just make them very small, and you can also rest your palm on the canvas as well so that your hand is steadier. And now I'm grabbing that larger brush and just filling in the rest of the foliage here. We're already on to our final step. I'm getting that small pointed brush from earlier and I'm dipping it back into the white on my palette, and I'm just going to paint in the street light now. So I'm going to use a lot of paint to paint in the light, and then I'm going to water down the white paint kind of like I did for the stars, and I'm going to paint a halo around this light to give the effect that there's light coming out from it. Can be a little bit tricky, but just build it up slowly. It's so much easier to add paint than it is to take away. And you can use a tiny bit of water. I know these are acrylics, not watercolors, but it'll kind of dilute the color a little bit so you get that transparent effect. Now we're on to the final details. So I'm just going to go over my moon one last time as well as the birds, and then we're finished. I hope you had fun painting together, and be sure to leave me a comment to suggest what we paint next time. Thanks for watching!